I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to speak with Erin Gruwell. As an inner-city high school English teacher, she was charged with low-performing, underserved kids plagued by community violence and racial hostility. Gruwell used the stories of her students to help them recognize and embrace the power of writing and the adversities they shared among themselves and others. With these stories, she fostered a philosophy that values and promotes acceptance and diversity. In turn, she helped her students chart the future to become high school graduates, published writers, and catalysts for change. Dubbing themselves the Freedom Writers, in homage to civil rights activists, Gruwell and her students captured their journey in the New York Times best-selling The Freedom Writer's Diary. Their story was also brought to the silver screen in major motion picture Freedom Writers and chronicled in the documentary Freedom Writer, Stories from the Heart. Now, as the founder of the Freedom Writers Foundation, Gruwell helps teachers implement her innovative lessons in their own classrooms. The foundation brings hope by sharing stories of overcoming adversity through education, develops interesting and substantive curricula, and awards scholarships to first-generation college students. Erin, as a new teacher in the 1990s, you found yourself in high school with 150 students who you said hated reading, hated writing, and hated you. How'd you connect with these students to set them up for success?
It's a great question. As a new teacher, I just wanted my students to put down their fist and pick up a pen and embrace that cliche that the pen is mightier than the sword. And I just had to understand why they were resistant to reading and writing in school. And in doing so, uncover their story. And in uncovering their story, allow them to be storytellers.
With your background and experiences in working with diverse student populations, what advice do you have for educators who are striving to make classrooms more inclusive today?
To really see our students, there is no one size fits all. And I learned that immediately when I walked in and saw students who didn't like the discipline that I was teaching, didn't like each other, and they didn't like me. So it was a way for me to pivot and to realize that sometimes we are teachers, oftentimes we're students, and to make my class very Socratic, allow them to be students, but also rise the occasion and become teachers as well. And our class became this beautiful, inclusive, accepting place.
So, Erin, many of our students work in nonprofit organizations or aspire to create their own to lead social change initiatives. They're passionate about these things. Tell us about your journey in creating the Freedom Writers Foundation and the impact it's having on educators and their students.
The amazing thing, I was actually able to put my students through high school and college and use the proceeds from our book, The Freedom Writers Diary, as their college scholarship. And then I got to hire them. So I got to study with them, instruct them, and then work beside them and with them and for them. And that was the incredible thing, is to be able to pay it forward, to find other folks who needed a hand up, not a hand out. And that's really our social entrepreneurial method, is to pay it forward, to give people voice, to empower folks. And we find that if you are empowered, it's easier to empower others.
Erin, as of 2018, the foundation has awarded close to 300 scholarships to first-generation college students who've demonstrated remarkable academic promise despite considerable odds. What kind of institutional changes can we make in education to better serve those first-generation students?
Since I taught non-traditional students, I think it's so important in academia to really foster that it's not the sprint, it's the marathon. And for the Freedom Writers, they were the first to graduate, the first to go to college, and then the first to find similar students who were like them, to break a cycle. And education can and does equalize an unfair playing field. For my students, as they entered into higher education, life gets in the way. Some of them were parents. Some of them had to take care of their own parents, paying rent and trying to sustain families. So I wanted them to realize that when you are able to finish, you will finish. They have a great cliche, when the student is ready, the teacher will arrive. And so I wanted my students to realize it's a journey, and that journey in and of itself is a destination. Each and every one of those scholarship recipients truly were the first, overcoming great obstacles. And it's like holding the mirror to your amazing Walden students. You know, when I look at into this sea of students today who are graduating, you see promise and possibility of people who had to start over, who had to take care of a family, who had to take those courses in the middle of the night or at the crack of dawn. That says a lot about their grit and their tenacity and their sacrifice. And I think that the Freedom Riders story just mirrors the Walden story. So it's perfect synchronicity to be sharing this stage with you today, because I think we're both trying to fight the good fight through education.
So education, K-12 education specifically today, is facing so many challenges, including retention of new and veteran teachers even. What can we do to support these teachers, and how can we retain them and help them navigate toward success?
What the Freedom Riders and I try to do is to give voice to that talented teacher who's overworked and underpaid, voice to a student who isn't often seen, who needs their story to be out there so they're not suffering in silence, and to realize that we have to be flexible in these trying times. I believe that education is a civil rights issue. So I believe in our kids, I believe in our teachers, and I believe in our schools. And I think we have to take away some of those obstacles to build people up and not tear them down.
So you're here today as our commencement speaker. What's the most important piece of advice you'd like to give our graduates?
Today's really a celebration for them. It's honoring the core and contributing faculty members who helped them get to the end of this relay race, and then really honoring the families. They've sacrificed, they've supported, they've been the spark. So today's really, I think, a celebration for everybody. And I'm just really honored to be a part of setting all of these people out in the world to be agents for change and catalysts for things that are bigger. I know that your impact in Walden is it's bigger than just the individual. And so to be a small part of a revolution is really an honor for me.
So Erin, you've had a remarkable career as an educator. You've impacted so many lives. Thank you for taking time to share your experiences and your insights with us today.
Thank you. It's really an honor.